What's going on, guys? And happy Father's Day to all the great dads out there. Brian and I here for Rewind number 29, WWE Fatal 4-Way 2010. Brian, on Friday, it actually celebrated his birthday, so happy belated birthday once again to him.
Thank you.
Before we get to the show, I'd like to run through some quick reminders. Looking ahead to the remainder of the month, this Wednesday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, we will announce the lineup for Part 2 of our summer lineup for the month of July. And then for the final Rewind of the month, we'll be back here for Rewind number 30 with WWE United Champions 2008. For that event, every championship was on the line, and the two main matches being for both world titles. One was between Edge and Batista for the World Heavyweight Championship, and then for the other, it was between John Cena and Triple H for the WWE Championship. Then looking forward to this upcoming Wednesday at 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. As I said, we will announce on our Twitter and Facebook pages the second part of our summer lineup. This will be for next month. We will have ourselves here at JNC Radio. We have all decided that the lineup's going to look a bit different compared to like other months. So it has been decided, but we're going to wait till Wednesday to announce it. It's going to be unlike any other month, really, for the history of the program. And I won't go into full detail on everything just yet, but let's just say we're definitely thinking outside the box. So, yeah, that will be coming this Wednesday at 12 Eastern Time when you get the news on that. And also, we have to point out that JEC Radio is available on all platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Deezer. You name it, we're pretty much on every podcasting platform. If not, let us know, and we'll do our best to try and fix that. And if you are an Apple Podcast user, be sure to subscribe to us on there. And if you're a Spotify user, be sure to follow us on there as well. Before we get into the show itself, let's take some time and do something that we always do on the program, and that's give some backstory as to how this event all came up to shape. Here we are at the midpoint of 2010 in the month of June. Wow, exactly 10 years ago. Not one of my...
That's crazy.
I know.
It's crazy this was 10 years ago. We're getting to the point now in our lives where, like, I actually remember the pay-per-view from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, and that's crazy to me. Like, I actually remember this pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't one of my, I guess, favorite years from the company in terms of, like, product or whatever, which, I mean, at this stage, I'd probably prefer stuff like this opposed to some of the stuff we see nowadays. But, I mean, hell, at this stage in time, with everything going on right now in the world, I think we could probably all pretty much agree we'd rather be in 2010 right about now.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But always, let's try to do our best and stay positive, because that's all we can do. Hope everyone continues to follow the proper procedures and remain safe. But what I was getting at with the product in 2010 not being one of my favorites in better detail was... I was still a really young fan at this time who, for obvious reasons, being at that age, you couldn't really fully comprehend everything between what was, like, really good and what was, like, bad in terms of, like, what you saw. Yeah. But looking back, I don't think at the time, like, from when I was first exposed to, like, wrestling, like, a few years prior, I remember, like, years like in 07, 08, probably even 09 being... in all honesty, probably like more into it than I was in like 2010. I mean, I was obviously still super, super into it, but I think I enjoyed those first few years into it probably a bit more. But I actually at this time think I found myself having more interest in TNA than I did with WWE.
I started really watching wrestling, and like you showed me in 2007 and 2008, but I wasn't a huge fan. Mm-hmm. I started really paying attention to it and watching it weekly in 2009 to 2010.
Yeah, I actually think probably at this point in 2010, I actually had probably some more interest in TNA, as weird as that may sound. I mean, you look at 2010 TNA, you laugh about certain things, and I totally get it, obviously, but I think some of the names at the time that they had just drew me over. Like, they had Jeff and Rob Van Dam, who had jumped ship over there at the time that year. They still had AJ, Kurt, Sting, Beer Money, Motor City Machine Guns, and plenty of other guys over there who I enjoyed watching. Yeah, exactly. So they had a good group of talent nonetheless.
Yeah, the X Division, all like Samoa Joe, those guys.
Yeah, so I think at that point I was just more into it. That and just just being a young fan, just, the Bischoff Hogan thing. I mean, that was, I guess, intriguing to me as a young fan at the time, at least. But I guess you could say, once again, as I said, you can't really, at that age, I guess, fully comprehend what was good and what was bad. So I guess that's what that was. But getting into this time period, though, for WWE, we'd have two main programs heading into this event. The first being the World Heavyweight Championship program over on the SmackDown brand between the champion at the time, Jack Swagger, CM Punk, The Big Show, and Rey Mysterio. Not when this was. Back at the Overwoman pay-per-view, the month prior, Big Show would challenge Jack Swagger for the World Heavyweight title, with the match ending in a disqualification, resulting in Swagger retaining the championship. Because of this, there would be a Fatal 4-Way match at Fatal 4-Way for the World Heavyweight Championship. Since Big Show technically won the match at Over the Limit, even though it was by DQ and he didn't win the title, he would immediately qualify to be in the Fatal 4-Way. With Swagger and Show already in the fold, there would need to be two other competitors put into the match. With that being said, on the May 28th edition of Friday Night SmackDown, there would be two qualifying matches for the Fatal 4-Way match for the world title at Fatal 4-Way. God, that sounds dumb saying it like that over and over again. Two qualifying matches would be between CM Punk and Kane, and Rey Mysterio and The Undertaker. Punk would defeat Kane, and Taker would beat Mysterio. During the match between The Undertaker and Mysterio, Taker would suffer a concussion, broken orbital bone, and a broken nose. Because of this, he would be removed from the 4-Way for the World Heavyweight title.
Just so people know, real quick, that was a shoot, right? He actually got hurt?
Yes. Oh, yeah, all those injuries were real.
Because I think, I may be wrong here, and I don't know, but was he supposed to win the world title?
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that theory, we were watching this the other day.
Win, and then Kane was going to cash in on him.
Yeah, later. I mean, yeah, and I think that would have totally made sense. And once again, it would have been another way, just, Taker would have the title and probably do him and Swagger, and then maybe he cashes in on him that night. I don't know how they would have done it, but either way, they were going to do probably Taker and Kane again. That's probably what I think was going to happen.
I mean, Taker and Kane had that 3-match feud or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's always that. So because of that, he'd be removed from the match, and the cover for the injury and storyline Kane would find The Undertaker, his brother, his older brother, laid out left in a vegetative state. As a result, Undertaker would be unable to compete, leaving one spot for the Fatal 4-Way match open to determine who would join Swagger, Big Show, and Punk in the match. A battle royal would be held on SmackDown, which would see Rey Mysterio come out on top by eliminating Kane as the final elimination to take the fourth and final spot. For the Raw brand, there was a Fatal 4-Way match for the WWE Championship. John Cena was the WWE Champion at the time in June of 2010, who had successfully retained his title in an I Quit match at the Over the Limit pay-per-view against Batista.
Yeah.
And then the next night on Raw, the May 24th edition, speaking of Batista would come out in a wheelchair to sell the after effects of being AA'd off of a car through the steel stage ramp. He'd then try to cut a promo before being interrupted by Bret Hart, who would be announced as the new general manager of Monday Night Raw, which that's actually kind of weird to think that ever even happened. Batista would demand to Hart that he wanted his rematch with John Cena for the WWE title. Bret would tell Dave that if he wanted his rematch, he would have to qualify for the Fatal 4-Way match by defeating Randy Orton. Batista would refuse to face Orton and point out that he couldn't compete due to injury. Hart would take this as Batista forfeiting, and Orton would qualify for the Fatal 4-Way match. So this would lead to Batista quitting, which I don't know why, but for me this is just hilarious. The whole, you don't think I'll do it? You don't think I'll quit? Then I quit.
It's kind of crazy because I don't know if people saw it coming at the time, but I didn't because I was a kid, obviously. This was the end of Batista as a full-timer.
Yes, this was the end of his original run with the company.
And I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, and he wouldn't return till 4 years later, 2014.
Yeah.
So
just shocking. And now I think and obviously now with him being, completely done, I think at least, I don't think he's ever coming back to wrestle.
Well, yeah, that Triple H match is supposed to be it.
Yeah. I think that's for the best that he's done. I think he, not that he's terrible. I just think that, we need to move on. I've always been a fan of moving on to young stars.
Yeah.
And not trying to hold on to the past. you know, it's just interesting to go back and think about the storylines. Like, I don't really think about Nexus that much, but when you actually pay attention to it in the storyline and everything, up to this point, Nexus was amazing. Like, it was booked to the point where it had me wanting to tune in every single week to see what the Nexus was going to do.
Yeah, we were going to get to that in a moment, actually. So just like that, he'd be in the match without having to do a thing. Just to recap what we have so far, we have 2 Fatal 4-Way matches at Fatal 4-Way for both world titles. We have qualifying matches on both Raw and SmackDown to get into these 4-way matchups. But 2 of the participants, one in each of them, got into the match without doing anything. While the other 2...
Well, but Big Show, I think, makes sense why he got him.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, that was a DQ, so he kind of got to see title opportunity stolen from him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Orton just... that, come on now. That was kind of...
Orton doesn't make sense.
That was a throwaway. But I do find... Yeah, so I guess that one you could kind of forgive. So then, getting into the other qualifying matches. So, Orton and Cena would be the first 2 in the WWE Championship Fatal 4-Way. There would be the 2 other qualifying matches, which would be held to determine who else would join them at the pay-per-view. For one, we'd have Sheamus versus Mark Henry, which we'd see Sheamus pick up the win. Then in the other, there would be a triple threat match between John Cena, the world champion, Edge, and Chris Jericho, where if Jericho or Edge won, they'd be in the Fatal 4-Way at Fatal 4-Way. That's a strange concept.
It is.
In that, Edge would pick up the victory and would join Orton, Sheamus, and Cena in the WWE title Fatal 4-Way. Now, while that covers the backstory for the main 2 title matches for this event, there is one other moment or incident, which is the correct terminology to use, that transpired during this time period leading up to Fatal 4-Way, which took place on the June 7th episode of Raw, the Viewer's Choice edition of Raw. The main event of that show would feature WWE Champion John Cena going up against CM Punk, who had won a poll to face Cena after beating out both Rey Mysterio and Jack Swagger by winning 45% of the vote. Come to think of it, that's actually kind of surprising that he beat out Rey in a popularity contest in 2010, mainly just at the time with the character he was portraying. While that match was going on, all of a sudden Wade Barrett would appear up at the entranceway. At first, it seemed like Barrett was just maybe, observing the main event because at this time he was fresh off of winning Season 1 of NXT.
He also, at the time, in the first season, at least when you won NXT, because you won NXT, it meant that at some point you got to choose a world title match to be a part of.
Yes, so maybe he was, scouting the competition, scouting John Cena. But then all of a sudden, all the other participants from Season 1 would appear as well. Names such as Heath Slater, Justin Gabriel, Daniel Bryan, Darren Young, Skip Sheffield, Michael Tarver, David Otunga. All 8 former NXT rookies would circle the ringside area and begin taking out everyone and everything in sight.
Commentators, ring announcers.
John Cena and CM Punk in the ring, the Luke Gallows, to Justin Roberts, the Raw ring announcer, Mark Eaton, the timekeeper, Jerry Lawler on commentary. They tear apart the ringside area. They tear up the ring. They leave everyone in just absolute shock. This faction of the Season 1 NXT rookies would be known by everyone as the Nexus. They're not the Nexus yet because they don't have the name, but just stabled that one day, I don't know how we'll be able to do it, but the idea just sounds great to me. I think one day doing some kind of show where we talk about the Nexus would be a very good topic to do.
I agree. I just think that looking back on it and on the show, and we'll talk about how it ends in relation to them, but they were so hot. Like, everyone was like, what's the deal with the Nexus? What's the deal with the Nexus? Like, it's like, that ending to Raw they have on their debut is one of the only Raws of my life where I was like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah, I agree.
I remember being like, I'm excited for Raw next week.
Yeah, I remember watching it live when it happened. So, yeah, it was crazy. After the Nexus invasion, Daniel Bryan, who was noted as one of the 8 rookies involved with the attack the previous week, was released from the WWE on June 11th of 2010. During the beatdown, Daniel Bryan had choked Justin Roberts with his necktie from his suit and also spit on John Cena as well in sign of disrespect. Those actions would be viewed as too violent for the company's PG-rated programming. Then on the go-home show for Raw before the pay-per-view, the June 14th show, it would be explained in kayfabe that Bryan had felt remorse for his actions and as a result was exiled from the group. Wade Barrett would confront General Manager Bret Hart, demanding contracts for the rest of the Nexus, which Bret would